late today in the New York Times, pulling back the curtain for the first time on exactly how Donald Trump learned Bob Mueller was taking over the Russia investigation. Now, this story is not important because of palace intrigue that's embarrassing to Trump and Jeff Sessions, though it includes much of that. It's an investigative account of how panic over the Russia inquiry goes to the top of the White House, with implications for the ongoing inquiry into whether Trump abused his power to obstruct justice. That is one of the criminal inquiries in Mueller's investigation. This was a fantastic and fascinating story to read when it came into our newsroom, and I want to share with you tonight as we go into it 3 critical revelations in the Times report. First, when White House counsel Don McGahn told Trump that the DOJ was appointing Bob Mueller, Donald Trump lost it completely. He was in the Oval Office with Mike Pence, Sessions, and other aides in a May 17th meeting about hiring a replacement for Jim Comey, of course, the vacancy that actually set the special counsel appointment in motion. And the Times says Trump responded by launching a, quote, volley of insults at Sessions, blaming the appointment on him and saying that his appointment was one of the worst decisions Trump ever made, also calling him a, quote, idiot, and saying he should resign. Now, we know that in public, Trump says many things about Russia, but this is fascinating and important potentially because it's in private. The Times account saying that Trump saw this as basically the worst thing in his presidency and erupted in rare self-criticism about his decision to hire Sessions. Remember, Trump could have asked Jeff Sessions about potential recusal before hiring. Trump didn't do that simple thing because he wasn't prepared for that job interview, and he shows little interest in staffing the federal government. Now, this report shows Trump's response to Mueller was to oust the attorney general so he could get a new one that would not be recused and thus give Trump more direct oversight over the Russia inquiry. That may be a bad thing for him, at least if investigators believe this Times account. Here's the second revelation. It's about Sessions, who later told people Trump's attack that day was, quote, the most humiliating experience in decades of public life. Sources telling the Times that Sessions during the meeting was ashen and emotional. Now remember, the U.S. Senate rejected Jeff Sessions' judicial nomination over his civil rights record, and 47 of his former Senate colleagues voted against his nomination to this post to be Attorney General. When Jeff Sessions says this was the most humiliating thing in his career, it must have been severe. And we know he offered to resign. That's been previously reported in Politico. But in the new account, we learned Trump later reversing himself, specifically rejecting a resignation letter with a handwritten response on it that he sent to Sessions. And now, finally, in our account, the third revelation here that is the most legally important. Donald Trump began taking action to fire the Attorney General over the Russia investigation. He did it with witnesses in the room, and he did it after admitting, of course, that he fired the FBI director over the Russia investigation. And in this Times account, we learned tonight the only reason President Trump didn't go through with this second law enforcement Russia-related firing was that Pence, Bannon, and Priebus intervened to save Mr. Sessions' job, arguing that ousting him would sow more chaos and rally Republicans against the president. Notice that 2 of the people there in this account who saved Sessions no longer work in this White House. And note that their stated rationale, holding the GOP base, may be the very reason they offered Donald Trump, because they know him, and they knew that kind of political calculation might move him. But I think they knew another reason. President Trump is under investigation for firing the nation's top investigator over Russia, the FBI director. And he tried to oust the nation's top law enforcement officer over Russia, the Attorney General. Priebus and McGahn are facing demands to testify under oath before Mueller. This news story suggests Bannon will be next. He was part of this decision, part of the reversal, and he is a man who recently said firing Comey was the worst decision in modern political history. Maybe Steve Bannon knew, as this report tonight suggests, that the Russia firing of Jim Comey was just the tip of the iceberg.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.